Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is News and Week in Review, or at least it's the video that goes in the spot that the News and Week in Review goes in. I struggle with this every single time. So here's the deal. I have the News and Week in Review video. It goes up every single Saturday. It's a dedicated time slot for a dedicated type of video. Of course I could miss it and the world would not end. I know that intellectually, but I like patterns, I like consistency, I like doing things where people expect to see them, and this is the slot. 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Saturday morning, every single week, News and Week in Review goes up. I think I've missed it like twice. One time I actually had it and I just scheduled it for the wrong day and I was like, oh no, what do I do now? And then that was like 4 years ago, I think. And then it's crazy that this series has been going on that long. Maybe it's 3 years ago. It might have been 3 years ago. And then I think there was one time, maybe a year and a half ago, where I just didn't put it up. I put up a little a note saying it's not going to be a video, and it was what it was. It is what it is, but past tense. So it was what it was. But I like consistency. And so I like having the types of videos that go up in the certain spots during the week. I like having them go up. And one of the most consistent ones across the past 3.5 years now that I've been doing this particular series is the News and Week in Review, which covers the news. It covers the videos we've covered this past week. It has alternated from having a topic of the week to having a creator spotlight to having the Board Game Geek hotness. There have been different things that go into that, but the main focus is news and then a recap of the videos of the past week. The problem is sometimes, like today is currently Sunday, not your day, my time is currently Sunday, July 27th, okay? I am headed out to Gen Con Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning, which means I can film this video today, tomorrow, or on the road, or not at all. On the road, I try to avoid, especially something as busy as Gen Con. Like, I could put into my schedule, but honestly, I think that one time that I missed, I had that ambition. Like, that one time a year and a half ago, well, I guess there were 2 times. The time I scheduled it wrong, and then a year and a half ago when I missed the video. That time, a year and a half ago, I'd been traveling, and I was like, I will do it on the road. And then I didn't do it, and that's why I'm a little bit more averse to, I don't mind doing things on the road. I do it all the time. Like a convention hall, like at Gen Con, I hope to do a showing of the hall. I hope to do a showing of the hall. And if I do, great. But if I don't, it's not missing a dedicated slot. Versus something like this, if I push it off, there's the chance I miss it. So I don't want to rely on doing it later in the week. I could do it tomorrow, but honestly, the difference between today and tomorrow is not going to make a big difference to me. And this way, I can focus all my planning on today, all my filming today, and my planning for Gen Con tomorrow. But that means that I'm talking about the News and Week in Review. Before there's time to have news, I could cover the Week in Review to a certain extent because a lot of things I do are scheduled, so I do know what the video looks like to a certain extent. I know what the week looks like. But I do find that when I do the Week in Review this early in the week, I end up filming a video that goes into this spot and wanting to talk about something, but not knowing what goes into that slot. It's one of the few times, like, I love what I do. I love most of what I do, I should say. But I love most of what I do. I love talking to the camera. I have so much to talk about, whether it's my opinion on a dedicated game, whether it's a conversation, a topic, I don't know. There's so many different things. But one of the things I struggle with is what goes into this video when it's not the normal format. Because if I do it like a full topic, if I'm like, hey, how crowdfunding is destroying board games, like, that could be a conversation. It could be an interesting conversation, but it's an interesting conversation that deserves its own video. Not this rambling, hey, it's the News and Week in Review, except it's not actually that, it's something else entirely. And so this is one of the few times where I sit down, I struggle with what is it I'm going to talk about. One of the last times this happened, and it wasn't intentional, that was just timing worked out, I talked a few weeks ago when I was going to Dice Tower East, I talked a little bit about the burnout I was currently going through. I had 2 days where I was like, I just need a break. And fortunately, that hasn't come back since then. I was a little worried that Dice Tower East would be a recovery, and then I'd be back to like trying to get everything done in between conventions, because since then I had CharCon, and now I have Gen Con, and so trying to cram everything between conventions, maybe I'd be a bit burnt out again by the time, until convention season was over, or at least had a longer break. Like after Gen Con, I at least have like 5 weeks off till the next one, as opposed to the week and a half off I've had between conventions till now, sometimes not even that long. Anyways, that was a few weeks ago. So first of all, if you watched that, I'm doing great. Emotionally, I'm doing great. I'm not currently in a place where I'm pushing myself too hard or feeling burnt out. Not the topic of this video, but once we're on the subject, just letting you know I am currently doing great, which I expected to. I do find being able to talk and communicate and just say, hey, currently a hard day, but it should be fine. That alone can be worth so much. The ability to talk, to communicate, to have friends in your life, to have friends, people, family, whoever it is helpful to have people to be able to talk and communicate to, and you are amongst those people. Not the topic of this video. Point was, honestly, I didn't plan on spending the first 5 minutes talking about how it's hard to talk about things, but that's where we are. So basically, Sunday, July 27th, the news and week in review. I'm not doing the usual format. In case it hasn't been obvious so far, I'm not doing the usual format. And there was a video that I almost debated putting up. So one thing I've been doing, I don't know when it goes up. It may have already gone up earlier this week. It may go up next week, but I started doing a little mini 30-day vlog series where I'm just filming myself a little bit every day. I have some goals, some habits I'm working on, and I just decided to do a little bit of a film myself every single day and then put it out as a video once a week, kind of a here's where things are. And I debated putting that up in the news and week in review slot because I feel like that kind of fits. It's a weekly format to a certain extent that fits there. But I was like, I don't want to introduce it randomly, and I don't want to start the vlog off by being this is the news and week in review and not. So that's not going to be today's video. Instead, I try to think of something semi-topical that probably could be its own topic in its own right. Again, this is the problem. This is the problem. Anything I put in the spot feels like it could be a dedicated video. But it should be a dedicated video. It should be a dedicated video. It's not going to be, though. It's not going to be. We're going to talk about the cult of the new to a certain extent. Because I was thinking, like, what's topical? Like, I'm currently at Gen Con. When you watch this video, I'm at Gen Con. By the way, usual thing I always say, if you see me, by all means, say hi, stop me, any of that stuff. If I am rushing from meeting to meeting, which is most common at Gen Con, I will still say hi, but I will say, I'm sorry, I'm in a rush, I gotta go, but hi, thank you. And if I'm not in a rush, which also happens, then I will say hi properly and talk to you. It just depends on what's happening at the moment. But so yeah, if you're at Gen Con, you see me, first of all, I don't know why you're watching this video now, but maybe you'll see me later today, maybe you'll see me Sunday. By all means, stop me, say hi. Secondly, the cult of the new. This hobby is built around consumption. I don't know how long we are into the video before we get to the topic-ish of the video, but this is the topic of the video. This hobby is built around consumption, around constantly putting out new things. It's an essential part of any hobby, and it's not that people are inherently trying to find ways to make more things just for the sake of making more things. What tends to happen, and this happens in, again, almost any hobby, but the ones you'll be most aware of are the types of content you consume, whether it's music, movies, TV show, books, video games, and board games. There's other types of content out there. I'm talking about the main types of content you're probably engaged with. Those types of content tend to come to life from a combination of 2 factors. One is passion. There's a lot of passion that people want to do things. I love board games. I should create a board game so I can share my love of this hobby with you from a different standpoint. Or I just want to create. But in order to create it, I have to have an audience for it. I can't just create a board game without having a prop. I mean, you could, in theory, if you really wanted to create your own print and play game, but people often want to create. I want to be the next insert designer name here. And so there's a lot of passion behind the creation of new board games. There's also companies that start often with that initial passion and eventually grow, and they hit a certain point where they have to put out games. I actually have a video coming up at some point talking about some of these balances that are hard to manage. But effectively, once you have a company and a payroll, you need to create new experiences. You need to because you need to pay salaries. You need to pay salaries or close down the company. Those are your options. And it's very rare that people sit there and say, you know what? I have a company. We have 7 employees. We've made 5 board games or 6 board games or whatever number of board games. I think we've done our part. Let's close down. That's not a concept you usually hear in any industry. People don't just shut down a company. It goes to a certain, it starts with a degree of I want to create something. And then it goes from there to I need to create something to pay the salaries. There is a need involved. And sometimes that need is also profit-based, like I want to get rich. I mean, again, in board games you're not getting rich, but you might be able to make money. You can make money and you can get rich. Those are different bars here. But it does mean that there's always going to be new things out there, both driven by passion and driven by necessity. Those are the 2 main things. The necessity of the people running the company who have to make payroll and therefore have to keep creating new games. But that means you have to continuously put out things that people will buy. In order to ever have an industry be viable, you have to put things out that people will buy, which means every single year there are new board games. More and more new board games because the hobby keeps growing, the people who want to create keep growing, the companies that need to sustain themselves keep growing. This is a constant need. Now, the hope in general is that some degree of market match is found, that the demand there's a certain demand, and you can either meet that demand or you can create something that makes the demand meet the supply. Both are possible. When you have that really popular game, sometimes people's demand increases because of the supply, because you create Gloomhaven 3.0 and people are like, I didn't need this, but now I do. The demand increases. Alternatively, if there weren't enough board games, then people would make board games because there'd be a demand for new board games. But all of this is kind of a complicated way of saying economics at play. Like, economics are a concept. Like, the idea that there's supply, there's demand, there's meeting those things, there's fluctuations. If there's too much demand, then more supply will be created because people have an opportunity to make money at that. If there's too much supply, then some companies will go out of business as they struggle to actually sell enough games to pay payroll. Or people will just make less money but still stay here because they want to be here enough. There's all these little market adjustments that happen, but the end result is that every year at Gen Con, there's hundreds of new games being released. I don't know if that's true. I should take it back. There's a lot of new games being released. There's thousands of new games that come out every year. I don't know how many are at Gen Con or at Essen. But it means there's a glut of availability for us. Anything from, hey, like they just did a new Ticket to Ride. They did a new Ticket to Ride. It's not a new map. They did a Ticket to Ride refresh. This is a concept that exists all the time. You put out a new version of an old game. Some of the people who own the old game buy that. Sometimes it's just because you want to appeal to the new market of people who want to buy that game for the first time. And so now Ticket to Ride is buyable, either by someone who already owned Ticket to Ride or somebody who didn't own Ticket to Ride. There's a new version. Other times you put out new maps, you put out new boards, new maps, new expansions, new things out there trying to cater to the fact that there are people who want Ticket to Ride, so it's easier to sell a Ticket to Ride expansion than insert new name here. Ticket to Ride has millions of copies sold worldwide. There's a lot of built-in demand for that new expansion, contrasted with like Days of Wonder taking a chance on some new game. Both will happen because you can't find the next Ticket to Ride unless you take a chance on the new game. But you have to always build on your existing demand, build on your existing base. And the end result for us, for you, for me, for the average person who's playing board games, the end result is an absolute glut of availability that we have to be the curators of our own self-control. We have to decide what it is we want for ourselves and engage with that. And this is one of those things where this is very much a do as I say, not as I do, although that is not just because I'm a hypocrite. I might be a hypocrite, but I don't think so. That is because the nature of my channel means that the pressures on me are different than the pressures on you. But what I recommend has always been the same. I play a lot of new board games. That is almost essential for the channel. That's where the eyeballs are. People don't care. I will be doing a video on the Ticket to Ride refresh. I have a review copy from Days of Wonder. I'll be doing a video on it. And I was like, I can't just do a video on the Ticket to Ride refresh. So I'm going to be clever. Not clever, but I'm going to try to make it slightly more interesting and cover other Ticket to Rides in the same video. I'm going to be like, here's the new Ticket to Ride. Here's what's different. Also, here are the other Ticket to Ride games and what they add to the genre because I haven't covered them yet. But that's my own needs. My own needs is I need to cover a lot of new things that are out there because that is what people care about. Oh, what was that? I had a reason I was saying that. I forgot. Even with that, even with the new Ticket to Ride, even with Ticket to Ride, with adding in expansions into the mix in that video, it's not going to get the same level of eyes on it as something new. Because I'll also be covering Railroad Tiles over here. It just happens to be on the side because this is the next video I'm filming today. This video probably went up earlier in the week, depending. We'll see, but I think so. I'll also be filming Railroad Tiles. I almost guarantee you my review of Railroad Tiles will get significantly more views than my video on Ticket to Ride plus expansions. And the reason for that is, unless I happen to get lucky and go viral to the general Ticket to Ride audience, from the people who are subscribed to my channel, one of those things is new and therefore a lot more interesting to watch than the old things. People are going to watch the new things, so I create content around the new things. I'm trying to, back to supply and demand here, I'm trying to cater to the demand, and the demand is never for the old, it's for the new. Every once in a while, I'll still talk about the old, and anything from top 10 lists or covering an old game that I just happen to get to now. That's because I have a degree of, I'm not just trying to give the people what they want. I care about this hobby. I'm passionate about this hobby, and so if I play a game that came out 7 years ago and I play it for the first time, Lord knows I will talk about it now. I will talk about it now because now is when I'm excited about it. But the general trend of what I do, the individual videos are based on what I want to do. The general trend of what this channel does is going to be based on demand, and demand is for new content. So I have to play new games because of my job. I'm not complaining. This is not a bad job. This is a good job. But my advice to you, the way I lived my board game life before I started doing content, is to ignore the new as much as possible. Browse it by all means. Like, treat it like a trailer for a movie. I like to watch movie trailers, but the amount of those movies that I actually see in theaters are very, very few. I probably see one, for every like 30 movie trailers I watch, I probably watch one of them in theaters, maybe 5 of them in the first year it comes out, and the rest I inevitably get to if people actually seem to say it was good. I used to treat board games the same way. I would browse the content out there. I knew what was coming out every year, but I didn't actually buy games unless they had been around for a bit and people had clearly liked those games. There are 661 games on the Gen Con preview list as of this moment, like when I'm filming this. 661 games. That's a lot of games and not all of them are new, by the way. They're not all Gen Con releases, but there's 661 games that I'm able to buy or demo, and there's more, obviously, but those are the ones that made their way to the BGG preview page. It's a lot of games. You don't need to play those all. You don't want to play those all. Most of those games are not worth your attention. And I don't mean they're bad. I don't. I think that most games are good. But they're not worth your attention because there are so many better games that are worth your attention. And if you constantly try to play everything or engage with every new game out there, you are setting yourself up for some degree of burnout, constantly chasing something else new instead of enjoying the games you love. And I'm very fortunate that for myself, despite the amount of games I play, I'm very fortunate that every single year, there's still those games that I play that I'm like, this was a good game. I just played for the first time yesterday. I'm on my fourth play already. I played it for the first time yesterday. I'm currently in the middle of my fourth play. I played Gatsby from Panasaurus. Read the rules for it. Didn't expect much. Played it. Think it's fantastic. It's not a 5 out of 5. I'll just give you a heads up on that. Unless something changes, it's not a 5 out of 5. But it's fantastic. It's a great game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's really clever back and forth. And every year, I find so many games like that. Between the 4.5s and the 5 out of 5s, I don't know the exact number, but I'd say I probably have about 15 to 20 games a year that I find that fall into either a 5 or a 4.5. That's 15 to 20 experiences that I'm like, I want to play you almost all the time. The 5s are all the time, the 4.5s are almost all the time. Like, I am down. These are great games. These are great games that I can't wait to table, and I find those, and those are exciting for me. But there's so many more that are just good games. And I think your ratio of the time, the energy, the money, the whatever it is, whether it's shelf space, whether it's your mental headspace to learn rules, whether it's the budget, the amount of time you have to seek out new experiences, assuming you don't do it for a job, is going to be less than me. For the most of you. There are the exceptions out there. But for most of you who don't do it for a living in some capacity, if you're not able to play board games throughout the day and call it your job, you're probably playing less games than me. And you have to be diligent about even I can't keep up. Like, I can't keep up. I can't play everything. I don't think there's anyone out there who plays everything at this point. It's a question of trying to figure out the things that you think are most worthy of your time and seeking those experiences out, which means some degree of research, and sometimes it's just a degree of seeing what sticks. From those 660 games on the BGG Gen Con preview, 661, whatever the number currently is, I'd guess that at least half of them, no one's going to care that they exist a year from now. Maybe more. But like, no one's going to be like, people are going to be like, oh yeah, that was a game that came out last year, I guess. Or people talked about it loosely. Most of them are not going to be in the general lexicon of awareness. The ones that stick around are the ones that are worth your attention. But again, the nature of this hobby, and this is just Gen Con. There's Gen Con, there's Essen, there's PAX Unplugged, there's Origins, UKGE. Multiple times per year, new games come out at conventions, and multiple times a year, new games come out not at conventions. And then every single month, there's dozens of games on crowdfunding asking for your money for something new that's going to promise you the best experience at a higher price point than you should be paying for the coolest, newest thing on the block. And some of those things you should get. If you love a game and the new 3rd edition comes out and you think that's worth it, live a little. Like, have some fun. Financially responsible, of course, but like, I'm not trying to deprive your joy in the hobby. If anything, I'm trying to do it the other way around. I'm trying to say that there's a balance between giving yourself the room to explore and also the balance between giving yourself the room to engage with that which you love. One of my favorite videos I ever did on the channel to this day is almost the exact opposite of the message I'm giving you now. And I can't remember, I think I called it The Hunt for the Perfect Game. I'll link it down below if I remember, but otherwise it's called The Hunt for the Perfect Game. And it was talking about why I always play new games. And my motivations are different. That was one of the first videos I did on the channel. That was before I was reviewing things on the channel. But it was talking about why I personally, from a hobbyist standpoint, why I explore the new. And I talked about how every year there's been a few games that become amongst my favorite games. And so if I didn't play new things, I wouldn't keep finding these new things. If I looked at my top 10 games right now, my guess is that the majority of those top 10 are games that I discovered in the past 5 years. That's my guess. And that means that if that's true, because I'm just thinking through, like Lost or Arnak, Primal, I'd have to, For Northwood, I don't know offhand everything in my top 10, DEI, these are all games in the past 5 years, and that's just 4 offhand. I'm sure I can get to at least 6 of my top 10 that were in the past 5 years. And that means that if I had stopped at a certain point, if I stopped hunting for new games, I wouldn't find some of my favorite new experiences. But it's also true It's also true that many of the games that I got are games that I gave time before trying to find. Blood Rage, Terraforming Mars, Castle of Burgundy, these are all games that I tried well after they had hit the general public, well after they were well recommended across the board as games to try to check out. The world is full of amazing, incredible experiences that you can find to love that already exist and are well loved and well regarded. And it's also full of dozens of games that are calling to your time, effort, money, attention, shelf space, rules, all of that you just don't need to. Think about how many crowdfunding campaigns you've backed that the game showed up and you weren't as excited when it showed up. Not that you were against it, but like you backed it, you were excited it, you wanted it, it showed up, and it didn't hit the table for 5 months, if that long. Like, think about how often that happens, and that should be a gauge of whether you're backing the appropriate amount of games. If the vast majority of the games you back don't actually get played for a long time, you might be backing more games than you need to. And again, if that makes you happy and you're happy, you're content, you do you. I'm not here to ruin your fun. I'm just trying to give you the room to enjoy your best games, because I know that there are dozens and dozens of games behind me on these shelves that I could sit down for a game that would have an excellent experience that I would love. And I also know that there's dozens of new games that I try out on a regular basis, and some of them turn into the new games I love, and some of them are just an okay game where I could have been playing something else. This hobby is built on consumption. It has to be. The supply is going to constantly grow because there are so many reasons for it. Driven by passion initially, driven by the need to sustain a company eventually, the supply is always going to be there. And we sit there and we get frustrated by that sometimes. We're like, oh, why is there a third edition? I haven't even played my second edition. Well, that's a little bit on you. A little bit. Because it's all complicated. But if you haven't played the second edition, if you backed the second edition because you were so excited, and then the third edition comes out 2 years later and you're like, I never even played the second edition, why did I do that? That might mean you're getting too many games. And companies aren't going to slow down if the demand is there. If people buy things, whether it's backing it, whether it's buy them, whatever the format is, if people buy something, companies will keep making that thing. You have to be the curator of your own attention. You have to be the curator of your own resources. Think of this as a giant board game where you're trying to be efficient. I was playing Ticket to Ride Nordic yesterday as part of this whole refreshing myself to do a little Ticket to Ride thing. And I lost the game horribly. Lost it horribly. But there was a pivotal moment in the game where I realized I know exactly where I lost the game. I don't know if I would have won, but I know exactly where I lost as badly as I did. But there was a pivotal moment in the game where I put down a train on a track because I was trying to go this way. Okay? Without doing much, I was trying to go this way to try. And then I drew some new tickets and got a bunch of things, and I realized the more efficient route would be to go this way and circle around in order to get all my tracks. But I'd already put down a train over here. I'd already started that pathway. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going that way. I lost the game. Not even close, but like there's no question in my mind that to me, I was like, I already spent the resource towards that route, so I'm going to keep committing that way. In other words, in board games, we tend to be precious with our resources. We tend to be precious with what's being efficient. The whole goal is to be strategic and to be efficient and to maximize it. And then suddenly, when the acquisition of the board games, we are suddenly so much less efficient. We spend money on things we don't use. We spend money on things that are not as much fun as the things that we already have. And I'm not saying, again, I'll say this again and again, I'm not saying don't get things. I'm saying seek out for yourself what you think your own hobby is like. Currently, right now in the moment, are you happy with the way you're buying and playing and collecting? Are you happy with how all of it is going for you? Because if the answer is yes, you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep at it. Live your best life. I don't care if you're not playing a single game on your shelf. If you're happy, if you're healthy, if you're spending responsibly, you keep doing you. If it's working for you, it's working. But if you wish you could play some of your favorite games more, it's okay to step back and not engage with all the new stuff. Whether it means not going to a convention, whether it means turning off your favorite YouTube channel, whether it means just watching and engaging but not buying, whatever works for you. This is a hobby where as long as there's demand, the supply will be there. And I would argue that in most cases, if the demand's here, the supply is always going to be a little bit higher, trying to see how much it can pull up the demand, because this is an entertainment-driven industry that works. Every industry is different as far as how the economies work, but in entertainment, if you drive up the supply, you can increase demand. And the only way to stop that is to not allow your demand to increase. And you alone will never be responsible for the greater economic shifts of how it happens. But if you buy the thing because it exists, and not because you need it or want it or will engage with it, then people will keep offering you more things that you can buy because they exist. And that cycle will continue. It's better to become master of your own domain, just this time in terms of board games, and figure out what works for you, and just do that. I want to talk about this a bit because I do feel that this past week I've talked about 45 games at Gen Con that you should be checking out. And that's all true. And again, I will give the people what they want, which is and I make a mistake, it's based on my own excitement too. But if people will want content around the new things, and I will cover the new things. I will play the new things, I will play the old things. Again, Ticket to Ride was great. Ticket to Ride Nordic, hadn't played in way too long. It was great. I had a lot of fun. I'm going to play more Ticket to Ride. But I was thinking a little bit about, I try to balance. The nature of this channel means I talk about the new. But that means I've always, several times a year, I put out videos like this where I talk about trying to be conservative, trying to spend less, trying to back less, trying to enjoy what you have. Not in any way ever intended as anything no guilt. This is a no guilt, shame-free space, all that kind of things. It's more meant to be mindfulness, not guilt. You do you. Live your best life. Buy or play whatever makes you happy. And if you're having twinges about what parts of this hobby are or aren't making you happy, there's room for adjustment to find what works for you. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, I hope you have a good one.